And welcome to SVG-TV's news for Wednesday, July 19th, 2023. I'm Triska Campbell with the details. Prime Minister Dr. Alvin Savs wants to see more regular meetings at the highest level between the European Union, the EU, and the Community of Latin America and the Caribbean States, SVG-TV. Addressing a closing news conference yesterday after the two-day third EUCISLAC meeting in Brussels, Prime Minister Savs, who is the current pro tempore president of SVG-TV, said while there have been regional meetings of one kind or the other involving EU and SVG-TV member countries on different subjects, it is vital that the political leadership of these come together from time to time to give life, direction, and meaning to the relationship at the highest level.
It's a terrible thing that we hadn't met for 8 years. Now we're going to meet the next time. We're going to meet in Colombia. The agreement, the declaration has said that in 2025. And SVG-TV itself has put itself in a position where it can look forward to these kinds of meetings in a more structured way. For instance, there's already an agreement in SVG-TV that Honduras will succeed St. Vincent and the Grenadines next year as the PTP of SVG-TV. In 2025, Colombia will succeed. Here, we had a meeting with the Troika, the immediate past PTP of SVG-TV, then myself, Honduras, plus one, the chair of CARICOM, of the Caribbean Community. But what this meeting has been about is to...
On the issue of climate change, Prime Minister Savs said he is happy that movements will be made in the direction with a $100 billion pledge to support developing countries with climate change financing as outlined in the EUCISLAC Brussels Declaration.
Paragraph 23 of this declaration says this: we stress the importance to fulfill the commitment by developed countries jointly to mobilize US $100 billion per year for climate finance to support developing countries and to double adaptation finance by 2025. Well, there was this promise made in Stockholm in 2009 and that we should start something by 2020. Nothing has happened. Now we are having the 27 countries of the European Union saying, hey, we're going to push and do something about this. Now, this is an important declaration. Now we have to work through details on these matters. And there's several other such paragraphs. I know that from time to time it is in the nature of human beings, particularly, and it's good for journalists to be cynical because it is stock in trade. But there's great promise here, and I think we should not suspend our judgment as to what is here, but to hold us, and particularly the Europeans in this case, because they have more resources, to hold their feet to the fire. So that, I mean, it would be an awful thing if you write this in paragraph 23, and then in 2025, we see no money. That would be a hell of a thing. Then your cynicism would be justified.
On the Russian-Ukraine war, which is now into its 18th month, Prime Minister Savs told reporters that he was happy that the EUCISLAC summit was not consumed by what is taking place in Ukraine.
I can tell you straight from the very beginning, I said to Charles, we cannot make this summit between the European Union and SVG-TV be a summit on Ukraine. But clearly, Ukraine is a matter of great importance to Europe and the world, other conflicts too, in the world. And if you read the paragraph on Ukraine, you would see what is said here. Paragraph 15, we express deep concern on the ongoing war against Ukraine, and then they detail that great concern. Then that section of the paragraph says, we support all diplomatic efforts aimed at a just and sustainable peace in line with the UN Charter. Then it goes on to recognize the national positions of the various governments as adumbrated in the UN General Assembly resolutions, and it ends, it is essential to uphold international law and the multilateral system that safeguards peace and stability. So there's a reaffirmation of positions and a ticking of the box. It doesn't mean that you have to go and do the lambada and the nude anytime a subject is raised. It's not a, you know, the language is there. I mean, I don't know what we need to do more than this to get the attraction of persons.
Cabinet has approved $3 million EC dollars for the back-to-school road cleaning program, which is expected to commence on or around August 2nd, 2023. This is according to Acting Prime Minister Montgomery Daniel, who was on NBC Radio's Face-to-Face program today, providing some information on this and other decisions taken by the Cabinet as at its meeting last Wednesday. Minister Daniel noted that the work program will be carried out over an 8-day period across St. Vincent and the Grenadines. However, there are some challenges for the constituencies of West Kingstown and South Leeward, given the presence of the giant African snail in these areas.
We do not want to have the spread of this pest all across St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And so, in the normal way of cleaning the roads, the drains, we have to be careful. The pest itself, by picking it up with your bare hands, of course, the shell itself is poisonous.
Yeah. And
therefore, we do not want the persons who are doing the cleaning to be able to be grabbing onto the giant African snail, because, as I say, it is poisonous, and so it can be affected. So, the Cabinet has approved this work, but BRACSA, which is the agency that is responsible for the cleaning program, that BRACSA's operating team will have to meet with the Ministry of Agriculture and its professionals to sit down and have a meeting as to how the actual operations can be done in those constituencies.
Minister Daniel urged members of the public to report any sightings of the giant African snail to the authorities immediately so the necessary corrective measures can be taken.
We have to really take this protective measure because, as I indicated, the pest is quite a dangerous pest to the agricultural sector and can go as far as, even in residential areas, where they can eat the paint off the walls of properties. And so we have to be careful, we have to be mindful. This snail actually, it reproduces very fast. And so we have to try and limit its reproduction capacity. And this program has to, coming out of the meeting between BRACSA and the Ministry of Agriculture, that this meeting has to ensure that we limit any movement, any transfer of the African snails to any other part of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Of course, the African snail is found in a number of other Caribbean countries, including as close as Barbados. But of course, the agriculture sector here in St. Vincent is quite meaningful to our development. And so we want, even in the other constituencies, the other areas of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, that if this strange snail seen anywhere across the country, that it must be reported to the Ministry of Agriculture.
In terms of the school's repair program, Minister Janiel said $2 million were also approved for work to be carried out on some 19 identified schools.
Immediate work should be started on the temporary building at Arnoldsville for the Girls High School and for the Thomas Saunders Secondary School there. We had some problems in terms of the floor. Understanding that it is a temporary building where the foundation, the floor is not of solid structure. And so there has to be some remedial work to stabilize the floor as much as possible. And all of the other 90 schools, of course, will have some levels of repair. There is also to this program where all of the government schools will have water tanks placed at these institutions, because we want to make sure that there is enough water at all times for the use at the various schools. And so this program will also help to improve the quantum of water that is and should be for use at the various schools throughout St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
On the sea defense work to be carried out in Sandy Bay, the acting Prime Minister and area representative said before the actual work commences next month, some preliminary work had to be done, including a compensation to some 12 homeowners for their lands, which are across the shorelines, and Cabinet has approved the payments to be made.
That is from the north, what we call Cayo, and to the south, Caro. Between those two rivers, there are some 17 lots really, to which 12 of these homeowners will be compensated. You also have where 4 of these houses at the moment will be rebuilt. And of course, there are 2 families otherwise who have started their own structures that the project will complete their houses to able to have the area available for work to be done on the Sandy Bay Sea Defense project. So that already we have identified the lands for the relocation and rebuilding of these houses, and Cabinet has so approved of this work, and this work will be entrained shortly in terms of the actual building of these, rebuilding of these houses. Cabinet, of course, also approved under the CDB project, where God Save the Queen Bridge is to be rebuilt. There are some 7 houses to which the project has to relocate 7 families and rebuild the houses for these 7 families. The contractor, Obisado, he has won that contract and is expected to begin preliminary work by next month, August. So that already, again, the lands here for the rebuilding of the houses, the lands here would have been already identified. And so, shortly, very shortly, these houses will begin construction.
Minister Daniel further noted that the Cabinet also approved funds to commence work on houses categorized in levels 1 and 2 and continue with levels 3 and 4 in the volcano-affected areas of the red zone. Senior Technical Officer within the Ministry of Agriculture, Joanna Jackson, has been awarded the Extension Officer of Excellence 2022 for his outstanding work in the agricultural field at the Joint Conference of the Caribbean Agricultural Extension Providers Network and the 56th Annual Meeting of the Caribbean Food Crops Society. The conference was held at the Grenada Trade Center from July 10th to 14th, 2023 and culminated with an award ceremony in recognition of exceptional contributions to the agricultural sectors locally, regionally, and internationally. Jackson expressed his elation upon attending the prestigious award. The extension officer has been in the field of agriculture for 25 years, and his duties include the training of farmers, research, and aiding in the recognition of farmers' work and dasheen production. Additionally, Jackson made a presentation at the conference on the factors influencing adoption of new dasheen cultivators in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The conference was attended by researchers, scientists, and extension workers from Africa, the Americas, the Caribbean, Latin America, and Asia, and was held under the theme Increasing Resiliency of the Food Systems in the Caribbean by Linking and Modernizing Agricultural Extension and Research. Issues relating to food and nutrition security and climate change were also on the agenda. In other news now, the homicide count in St. Vincent and the Grenadines continues to climb, now at 30 thus far for this year. The latest killing occurred last night in the Montague in Mesopotamia Valley. The deceased has been identified as 29-year-old Kingsley Shallow, better known as Crime. Shallow's killing followed another shooting death earlier in the day in Golden Vale in the Kaliakor area. The victim being 28-year-old Cameron Roberts, who was gunned down reportedly on his way to work. In reference to Shallow, he was reportedly found lying in the public road just a few feet away from his home after a gunshot ran out in the area. In an interview today with SVG-TV News, Shallow's longtime girlfriend, Sharni Martin, explained how she found out about his death.
I was right by the pipe beating. So after I heard this, somebody say like this, okay. Sure you want a little more faster, so I say, I'm easy inside the house. When I go in the house, the first thing I do, I check my phone. When I check my phone, this is Kingsley. B, I they write down my call about down there coming up just now, me and Six and Big Man. When I don't hear the gunshot now, when I go in, I do check the phone. Never know, is he is the one who got shoot out here. That's it. We couldn't do nothing else more than just hold him and ball. Because it's so surprised, what crime does get anything? No anybody around the place could tell you, he and crime do. Me not saying, you get what I say, he and nobody even go gain and nothing. But them kind of thing, they no. Anybody could say they want the phone fix, they want anything do. Yes, he crime. In the class youth, yes, he crime. Because he's so nice to kids, because he love kids too. And he get one daughter. So I see what he could do to people that this thing could happen. It's shocking to me more than it's shocking to anybody else. Because I still just can't believe. Let me not even know myself again, I start ball for more than I see a soul out by the road, me run. First party I can ball out. I fear. That I am because I fear carry my closest to me here. So me after this me run out this and I say, I fear. Me not know I fear. So I see down the full of them boys. So I start to say, I come up because somebody know kill crime, shoot crime, kill crime up at that mighty, that's how I start to react. And then I run back out to the body. But when I come out, he wasn't breathing, he wasn't nothing.
Martin, who was in a relationship with the deceased for 7 years, said she will miss him dearly, noting that it saddens her that he did not get to fulfill his dreams in the music industry.
And what is one of your favorite memories that you shared with him?
It's so provoking. Me could take on the phone and talk to one of my sister. Me ever tell me that you have to come and do something that because here, you know, you say, be me just provoke if you just say it. That I. And me gonna miss him real bad. Because he really was a nice person to me. And me he live all the time. Even until he over there and he over here, he never sleep over, he say, come over here. Even until me and he don't speak. You think me gonna leave you over here? Me I come over too. That I he. And, you know, it's so sad. He was a person, his dreams was to get higher with his singing and everything. I think he would have get there. Because I think he just released a song yesterday I went. He was a nice person to anybody around him. He respectable. If it's one thing with him, he have manners to people. Anybody go talk to him, they're very older folks say, you know, we call everybody mommy. Mommy, tanty, this is how he move. We can't describe him no other way.
Martin used the opportunity to call for an end to the violence, particularly gun violence.
So they need to stop this crime. Long ago people used to say they fighting with cutlass and big stone and I think now, it don't make sense when people make little argument is coming to too much like snap. And me can't think about nobody like for say, you want war, pause, so for say, at that and at this. Yes, some people get into little stuff already, you know, get what I'm saying, but not that kind of stuff there. You need to in this country because all the years I live up here, from a little girl coming up, no one, people just get a little cussing and then hear them pass tomorrow and call out to one another. I just the same around the black. Don't care with the guys that get into around there, drink their little booze or whosoever. Well, he not a booze person. Drink their little, but everybody respect crime as a youth man, still they respect him. Because you have manners so all the elderly people them around this place. And every the youth them, the smaller ones them, you know pass it as a crime, you know. Crime. I feel that's crime going there. In the youth them I say, no, that you know see crime going there because that's how he loving to you because he have a little daughter too. So everybody will be sadly missing. He will missing to everybody.
The four structures at the bottom of Roseau, which the government started construction on about 10 years ago for mass men and women to use to build their carnival costumes, will no longer be made available to them. This was stated in Parliament last Thursday by Minister of Transport and Works and Physical Planning, Deputy Prime Minister Montgomery Daniel, who was responding to a question from opposition MP Fitzgerald Bramble on whether the complete structures will be completed and made available to mass men and women. If yes, when, and if no, why not?
No, the structures will not be completed for mass men/women. Why not? As it relates to Part B, the area identified is presently owned and managed by the Roads, Building and General Service Authority, BRAXA. At the moment, the site is currently being prepared by BRAXA to accommodate the construction of their main office. The preliminary work includes the construction of a berm to protect against the falling rocks in that area, cleaning and removing of debris that is present on the area, and the grading and the removal of the ramp presently used by the old stone quarry. BRAXA will also be removing 3 of the existing structures, and they would go to different locations to be repurposed as storeroom and other office buildings. So there's where we are with this.
In a supplementary question, Bramble told Parliament that a similar question was asked in Parliament prior, and he was told that the area was too dangerous given the hazard of the quarry above, and that he finds it very interesting now that the same dangerous area will be used to construct the headquarters of Roads, Bridges and General Services Authority, BRAGSA.
Now, we all know the amount of money that was spent in constructing these structures. Well over $10 million. So is the Honorable Minister telling me that all of that money is going to be wasted? Because, well, not all, some at least, because if you're going to remove the structures and repurpose them, there's going to be some cost incurred. And what, so my question is, how are you going to accommodate the masked men and women? Because the original purpose of these structures was to accommodate masked men and women to construct their carnival costumes. Does the government have any plans to go ahead with such promise to the masked men and women?
Very well. Honorable Minister of Transport and Works.
Madam Speaker, it is a fact that when we came to government in 2001, the masked men asked for more space for the production of their costumes. And Minister Julian Francis at the time, very proactive, went in search of lands and located these lands at Roseau and actually started the construction of these facilities. But the masked men themselves said the distance of moving their costumes into Kingstown on a carnival day was difficult for them. And so
maybe if you did talk to them before, you wouldn't have a problem.
But you spoke to them.
You spoke to them and still build it? So they changed their mind after?
Therefore,
That's not true. That's a fact.
Therefore, Madam Speaker,
I talked to them. I don't believe you.
we would have been having discussions with them. And so new lands have been identified so that they can have those lands and we can prepare another building for accommodating the masked men. But, Madam Speaker, I indicated that the area, of course, that you have a lot of rockfall coming down. But BRAGSA is building a bomb area to control the falling rocks.
But you could have do that
And therefore,
and leave the buildings.
this is what BRAGSA is doing at the moment. So this is where we are, Madam Speaker.
With the reduced numbers seen at this year's Sokamana competition and other CDC-held events, Marketing and Development Officer of the Carnival Development Corporation, Esworth Ezzy Roberts, and SVG's Consul General to New York, Rondi Luther McIntosh, said actions need to be taken for private promoters to follow the scheduled time given for their events so as to not compete with the official carnival events hosted by the CDC. The recommendation was made during the Talk Your Talk program on NBC Radio yesterday as they reflected on Vincy Mas 2023.
And it brings me to the point of wondering if these private events, we are not saying to cut them out, we're not saying, but we are given a time, because a lot of the events I know were given a time, let me say between 1 and 9 p.m. But they start at 5 o'clock. And because it started 5 o'clock and persons come to the party 7, they expect to go the hours yet until midnight, which I think is really unfortunate and should not be done, because there are police, you must have police presence at all these parties, and the police must be given instructions. So the onus is on the private promoters to bring people early to your party, to state it clearly that the party is going to finish at this time, so you must come if you want to enjoy. So if you finish at 9 o'clock, that's the police designated time. If you come 8 o'clock, you will get one hour of party.
I'm in full agreement with you, Luther. Something needs to be done. I think CDC is being dealt, if I could be bold enough to say, like a disservice, basically, because the time that agreed to by both the police and the CDC, because letters do come to the CDC requesting to have a party on that date from this time to that time. The CDC will agree, okay, that time is fine. Or if they request a certain time and the CDC figure it should be an hour earlier, they state it, the police will then issue permission based on the recommendation from the CDC, because we have the authority to do that within that period of time of Carnival. However, on a number of occasions, there you are seeing that the parties are going beyond the time that the official document states. You know what I mean? And the important thing is that the promoters ought not to feel that, okay, if I don't carry my party late, patrons will be disappointed. You made the point, Luton, I've always made it. Promoters need to tell the patrons, or the party will be running from this time to that time, party gonna finish.
Roberts used the opportunity, however, to commend and thank the private promoters for their contribution to Vincy Mass products.
I went to both events prior to going to Soca Monarch, and you know, I had to show my face here and there just to make sure everything is flowing out. So I had Chini Jungle Juice who were you know, covering these events as well, and then heading to Victoria Park. So yes, kudos to the promoters for those events. They really, you know, was of quality in terms of quality events and so on. They all help to make the Vincy Mass product look good and so on. So it's not a case where we don't want them to be a part of Vincy Mass. We're just saying let us work together, understanding the overall picture of Vincy Mass, and you don't want one cannibalizing on the other.
Consul General Rondi Luther McIntosh said despite some events not being held this year, Vincy Mass 2023 was a resounding success, and commended social media influencers who came here to participate in the festival and share the culture of SVG across the globe through their platforms.
But to give you and the CDC some blows, but I had to call me tail, because the carnival, I believe, was a resounding success. And one of the things that there's so many lessons to learn from Carnival, that when certain issues happened earlier, it was said that people would not come to Vincy Mass because we didn't have this party and this fete and what's that. And I was saying to myself that people come to Vincy Mass and they will participate in whatever is happening. People don't come to go to your fete and then participate in Carnival. And this 2023 would have proven that a lot of people still came to Carnival regardless to what fetes were happening or not happening. Of course, people have their preferences and they are the parties that they love and they will attend. And if you're not having that party, they will go to any party that is happening on that night or any other night. So I think Vincy Mass 2023 was a resounding success. I want to commend you guys on the social media influencers and all these vloggers and the bloggers that came in here, because after Carnival, we are seeing all over social media, all the postings, and especially Passport Heavy, who came here on their own expense, and they have already posted that they will not miss another Vincy Mass again.
The Ministry of Tourism will commence its first in a series of national community tourism consultations Thursday, July 20th, 2023 at the Methodist Church Hall in capital Kingston. The consultations will seek to provide a forum for stakeholders to discuss matters related to tourism development and further sensitize Vincentians about the transformation of the tourism and hospitality industry in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The consultations will hear presentations from Minister of Tourism Carlos James, Minister of Agriculture Soboto Caesar, Minister of Finance Camila Gonsalves, as well as President of the SVG Hotel and Tourism Association Kim Halbish and Winston Anderson, representing Sandals Resorts International. The presentations will highlight the importance of the tourism industry to the country's economy, with specific emphasis on the linkages to other economic sectors. The National Community Tourism Consultations will begin at 1 p.m. and is expected to bring together representatives from the public and private sector agencies and key tourism partners. The consultations, which will be held in various communities across St. Vincent and the Grenadines, will come to an end in November 2023.